Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Crypto Club and Digital Assets weekly catch up on Zoom. It is Sunday, the 27th of July, 2025, and as is always the case, we never quite know what we're going to be talking about. Really depends upon the audience and what they want to discuss. Some weeks we talk about blockchains, crypto, DeFi, NFTs, ICOs, the metaverse, central bank digital currencies, other emerging opportunities and risks linked to Internet Things and, of course, AI, and anything else that is of interest to the audience. So hopefully there is something in this for you to enjoy and to learn from. Do come along and join us for a future session now. We hold these every Sunday evening, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. UK time, and everyone's welcome, novice and expert alike. So with that, let's see who's going to come and join us today. Hey, Chris.
Hello.
How are you anyway? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I am reading through some of the projects, especially what I said before, Ethereum. I still don't get the use case of it really.
Mhm.
Um, well, I mean, the point where they said the Java virtual machine, it doesn't make sense to me. I understand the idea of smart contracts,
Okay.
but I don't understand why we need miners, although it switched to proof of
Stake.
stake, I think, yes.
Yep.
Because I never understood why anyone would need to mine Ethereum to check this. But then again, you could argue it's the same, sorry, as for Bitcoin. But yeah, I'm just getting into crypto again, reading the white papers, trying to understand what they do. Because in all fairness, most of the cryptos, I don't see much future.
Mhm.
Apart from a few, because either you've got three, four projects that try to do the same, um, especially, I'm thinking about Cardano at the moment. They
Okay.
had a bit of a long run, I think. When I first looked at it, from a technical perspective, what ADA was, what, a penny, and then moved on to 60. So I'm curious to see how this works. I can understand a project like Uniswap.
Hmm.
It makes sense to me. So you've got coins, you want to swap it on chain, and then we use the Uniswap maybe to pay the fees, or you get a benefit. I sort of get behind this, but what's your take? How should I approach reading into the white papers of all the projects? Because I told you this before, with stocks, it's simple. I can evaluate a company, EPS, and whatever,
Hmm.
and it makes sense. But how do I understand a crypto project if it's if it's worth pursuing
Yeah.
or not?
I think I've been through this cycle a few times now of people trying to put a valuation on a cryptocurrency. And I've seen the same mistake being made time after time, that people think that if you increase the utility of the cryptocurrency, sorry, wrong way around. If you increase the utility of the blockchain layer, then it increases the value of the cryptocurrency that sits on it. And I've never believed in this. So
Hmm.
you take a look at let's start kind of near the beginning of crypto, but not quite. We go back to when Bitcoin first came in, and Bitcoin was, one of the first cryptocurrencies, and its primary purpose was as value transfer. Okay,
Hmm.
and then some people started holding it, increasing its value, and that kind of thing. Well, it was ultimately a peer-to-peer, a form of electronic cash. If you read the if you read the white paper, that's what
Yeah.
it says it's about. It's about being able to transfer value without an intermediary. So whether you can transfer value to a large number of people or a small number of people doesn't actually have an impact on the currency itself. If it's just acting as an intermediary, then you don't really increase any value on it. So
Mm.
if you think about like the the US dollar is worth a dollar, irrespective of whether 100 shops accept it or 1,000 shops accept it. it's still worth a dollar. So for my thinking, for Bitcoin, which is one of the first cryptocurrencies, it didn't really matter what the adoption was in terms of reflecting the price of it. So this is where you start looking at, as you were saying before about stocks and shares and that, things like fundamentals. You know, the fundamentals behind a share is that there's a company which has got a product or a service, and it's got customers, and it's got a business model that makes money. Whereas with crypto, it's just transferring value. So there's an additional thing on that. Then you look at what was the next generation, which was having a programmable blockchain, and this is where Ethereum came into it, and where you've now got the concept of smart contracts. This is where, if you look at the potential utility and flexibility and adaptability, and you compare Ethereum to Bitcoin, Ethereum is leagues ahead, okay? But the price hasn't increased to the level that Bitcoin has, which kind of proved to me that the price of a cryptocurrency has got nothing to do with its utility or its flexibility, okay? Then you look at the next generation. So as you mentioned, Cardano with ADA, Solana, which is being used for a lot of things like NFTs and that. These are all like they're kind of like the new kids on the block, although they've been here a few years now. But again, are they offering anything that is unique in any way that will increase the actual value of it? And the only ones that I see that are the things that are doing things like they're providing anonymity. So if you look at some cryptocurrencies like Monero that offer the ability of like anonymity of payments, that's quite a unique feature, and people would pay a premium on it. But again, you're not seeing that reflected in the prices. So that's a really, really long scenic route to describe why it is. I don't think reading the white papers makes the slightest bit of difference, because what the cryptocurrency or the blockchain behind it can do has no real impact on the price or the value of it. Now, what does is purely speculation and investors and people. And this is my point, that a lot of people look at crypto markets and they take a look at the graphs and they take a look at the candlestick analysis and everything like that. And what they're actually doing is they're analyzing the behavior of the market. They're not analyzing the value of the underlying asset, because it doesn't have one. So this is where it took a while to kind of click. But this is why it's very difficult to do evaluation. And I know there are people who disagree with me. They'll say things like, oh, well, there's so many coins in circulation, they're valued at this, that means the market cap's worth this, blah, blah, blah. The reality is a cryptocurrency is worth whatever someone is willing to sell it for, when that matches whatever someone else is willing to buy it for. And that's all it is. Does that help in any way?
It does. I mean, it looks like I used the same technique for stocks, which I can't really use on crypto. But this again gets me to the point where I'm thinking, obviously technical analysis, and I started to look by trading in volume, and I've seen a lot of sham orders as well. I don't know what you call it, but when you check the order book and all of a sudden you see an order placed for 27 Bitcoin and it disappears. So there is still manipulation going on. But for me, if I look at Cardano, if I look at Solana, if I look at Ethereum, I'm just trying to see if you create this, what is the benefit if you say now I'm using ADA over Solana, or you said Solana is mostly used for NFTs, sorry. but I think there's still an ERC20 token, which means they run on Ethereum. So the weird thing is, if they say we run on Ethereum and Ethereum provides it, but then again, as you just explained, so that yeah, I sort of guess I'm answering my own question now.
Mhm.
But for me, the question is, I've checked CoinMarketCap. I've seen so many cryptocurrencies, and for me, I have to be honest. I think 80% on there shouldn't be there in the first place.
Mhm.
I've got a radical stand of that many cryptocurrencies are either piggybacking or absolute what I don't like meme coins. I really don't see any reason why anyone got into Shiba Inu, for instance, especially
Mhm.
well, apart from the fact that everyone probably plays the game of the pump and dump,
Yeah.
and it's a thrill, but I don't see any value behind it. I see value in Uniswap. You want to swap tokens from one chain to another, that's great. But if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the Arc project doing the same thing many, many years ago?
I can't even remember on that, to be honest. But I think it's absolutely valid what you're saying. And this is where it comes down to each of the cryptocurrencies may have some unique features about them, or that they're aligned with certain things. So as I say, some might be, as you say, like Shiba Inu, where it's about meme coins. You'll have others which are platforms that are typically used for NFTs. I've mentioned already about privacy coins and how they're a specialist thing. So
Yeah.
there are some variations, but nothing kind of massive. And when you take a look as well, the entire crypto market is worth, what's the market valuation of it at the moment? It's heading towards 4 trillion, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, market cap at the moment, $3.93 trillion dollars. But what people aren't noticing, and this is kind of interesting, I'll just show the coin market cap screen just to illustrate the point, that if we take a look at the major cryptocurrencies in inverted commas, okay, so number one, you still got Bitcoin at the top, then Ethereum, and then Ripple, which is certainly growing. But then number four is Tether. So that's a stable coin. So it is matched against the dollar. So its price shouldn't go up or down. So so if you take out the market cap of Tether, which is $163 billion, that's quite a substantial amount. And then you carry on a bit further down, and you've got USDC. So that's another stable coin, and that's another $64 billion
Mm.
worth of market cap. And so what I'm seeing is gradually there's a growth of the overall market share of stable coins, which means that whilst the market cap is growing, it doesn't really mean that crypto is growing. It's just it's got this kind of thing. So there are that do have unique facilities. As you say, like you look at Chainlink, HBAR, Avalanche, they're all doing things which are different. But whether they're producing enough value, I don't know.
Yeah. Now, when I think of stable coins, there is the next subject I'm sure you've talked in the past, and I will dig into the archives. The next step is CDBCs,
Okay,
which is
which technically aren't cryptocurrencies, by the way, but they
yeah,
they sometimes have some similarities. And it's interesting. There's been some developments recently in the UK with CBDCs, that the Bank of England has been running various projects around CBDCs, and it seems to be rolling back on them at the moment. It seems to be accepting that there isn't actually a real demand for them.
okay, good.
AJT,
Hey, hey guys.
we're just talking. We've gone back to first principles, JT, about the value of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the different cryptos. And my argument is that a cryptocurrency's price and value doesn't really have any bearing on its utility or flexibility. And the prices are generally driven by market sentiment and not true value in any way. But sorry, Chris, you were saying about CBDCs.
Yeah, I mean, it's sorry, it's going to be interesting because if it's really true that with CBDCs, if it was a currency and then the government could tax you immediately or devaluate your portion of the CBDCs, I don't know if that's what was being planned, that it would be totally controlled without of your control, or not. I don't know. I've heard stories. I don't know if they're true because I haven't validated them myself.
I
But
think, yeah, I think it provides the foundation to be able to do that. But if you look at what's going on in the UK anyway, where like the HMRC now has access to your bank details anyway, and certainly on the crypto side of things, the exchanges are supposed to be reporting activities and transactions. But now you've got it even more that the government's introduced the ability for government departments to inspect your bank accounts for any alleged fraud or anything. So they've kind of got the control that you're thinking of anyway.
yeah,
And you only have to go back to Canada. Was it 3-4 years ago? Maybe it's a little longer now, with the Canadian truckers. And the Canadian truckers were holding a protest, and all of a sudden their bank accounts were frozen. Now, they weren't doing anything illegal. They weren't breaking the law. They were legally protesting, but their bank accounts were frozen. It's like, so governments have got these kind of abilities already. All CBDC does is it makes it easier for them to put things in place. But yeah, it's interesting that CBDCs on the retail side, at least, so consumers, but people in there, it does certainly seem to be that there's less and less of a appetite for a CBDC as people realise just how much control could be in place. Well, we'll see. I mean, as I say, Bank of England, they published some information recently which seemed to suggest that they were rolling back on it a bit. But then equally, we've got, there's another law that's just been introduced in the UK, which is the Online Safety Act. And that's where there's now a requirement that if you access certain types of websites from the UK or in the UK, you have to now be able to prove that you're over 18. So that's a form of introducing digital identity, kind of almost through the back door, that they're saying, oh, this is to protect children, but it's the adults who are having to provide their identity details. So it's one of these things that might be well-meaning, but I can see that potentially could be linked in ways of putting in place other controls as well. But that's just a theory.
Well, a theory I can follow. Yeah.
Yeah. So as with all things in technology, what you can do and what you should do, and then what governments might choose to do, will vary. And it's kind of funny as well that I find the really interesting thing where people are talking about the concern about governments restricting access to money in that. That's more a reflection of our distrust in governments than anything else. So we'll see. JT, what's going on in the world? Anything exciting happening in crypto land that you know of?
Yeah, probably a few things.
Mm.
Yeah, but just picking up on what you're talking about, the CBDCs. I remember I spoke like while back, yes, 2017 or 18, at a conference about what was going to happen. And everybody blamed me for exactly what you said was going to happen. So, but I actually like. I think CBDCs are a good idea if it's just for payments. But programmable money, you know my opinion already about that. But for payments is great. I don't see any problem with it. It makes everybody's life easier. And the implementation of it could actually bring a lot of benefits. Like imagine, at birth, not just at birth, but if they implement now, everyone and every organization, private and public, and every person, and when you're born, you are basically assigned. In fact, it's a hash key. Really, it's your That's what identifies you in a government DLT, yeah, or a central bank DLT. Let's say central bank, yes, Bank of England, and then your salary, is paid to your wallet. Your wallet is really that identifier. That's what identifies. So they could actually create wallets for everyone, and that wallet could be still your plastic card or a QR code. It doesn't really matter, what it is. But you get paid that way. You spend it that way wherever you go. It doesn't matter online or not. It's always the same identifier. So I don't see that as a problem, and that could be still private. It doesn't mean nobody knows who you are. Yes. Apart from who needs to know who you are, which is really the Central Bank of England, but that removes anonymity from money, completely, Now, there is a lot of discussions, is it good or is it bad? It depends really how this gets implemented. If it's implemented in a way that it can't be abused, so remove completely and block completely when you actually create this programmable money, then it protects every citizen, because now you get your salary from your employee gets paid by customers. It's all the same process. And think like a Merkle tree, that you have, and then you can create side chains on each tree, and as it goes, that means you can still have Bitcoin. That means you can still have blockchains. They all become a kind of a part of that Merkle tree as a side chain, yes? So it's all connected and it's all identifiable, which is not a bad thing. Why? Because if it's implemented in that way, through smart contracts, the Bank of England could really control many things, okay? Inflation, of course, inflation is not just internal factors, but external factors that have a lot of input into what happens in our country anyway, So, but it can actually enable then to have more money circulating, less money circulating. It could literally, through smart contracts, well created, because why I'm saying this, at any point in time, that DLT, those smart contracts will know how much money is being produced and spent. Because everything that is produced in the country is identifiable through that unique identifier of every single company, every single private and public entity. And it's every single penny that is spent the same. So through smart contracts, they can literally, they could just enable economic policies and just watch it, because it will adjust everything automatically, I think it could be absolutely brilliant, and a lot of the economic policies can be completely automated through smart contracts, on that DLT.
And it certainly means you could do things like you'd have the ability in real time to see money supply. So you'd be able to see how the economy really is behaving.
Yeah, that's what I said, and then you can actually print more or less. You can control it pretty much almost everything. You can't control external factors. Yeah, of course, those have a lot of. I mean, those can impact a lot your economy, but for sure you can do that because you know at any point in time how much the country is producing and how much it's spending. So you can go with the supply more or less. You can change the interest rate automatically. You don't need to do anything because it's all on smart contracts. Yeah.
I think it's one of those things, though, that as you explain it through, it has many potential ideas or potential things to do. It's how they would be used, because there seems to be a growing concern that governments of the future might use it as a way of controlling not the money but the society, which is quite profound.
Very simple, Gary. You legislate like in the US.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you say it. They said no more programmable money. They said actually no more CBDC, which I think is a mistake from them. They should really put into law, Central Bank Digital Currency, okay, but this can't be implemented, all in law to avoid exactly those things. But the law could actually say, actually, this is also what can be implemented, yeah, clearly defined, and that yeah, of course, in the future the laws could change, yeah, but again, there are ways to do it, to make sure you don't change every time there is a government coming that they can change it,
Yeah.
So it's possible. It's just willing of the politician class, that's all it is.
And it's whether the politicians got the appetite to provide things that benefit the citizen in that way. So, Chris, yeah, it's a whole range of things, really. It does definitely offer great potential, but equally in the wrong hands. If a malevolent government came into being, then it could cause some problems. Equally, at the moment, you look at how we already have many restrictions in place, certainly in the UK. If you try and withdraw more than a certain amount of money from a bank account these days, it's getting harder and harder because of perceived needs to improve security around payments, which is allegedly to protect us against fraud and everything. Just making a payment these days is quite difficult, with all the authentication and verification you have to go through. And it is a kind of a question of, well, is that really necessary? Or is it just being put in place to make it look as though it's needed? I don't know.
It's a mix of both. Of both, I think.
Yeah. I think you're right.
And I mean, I remember in China in 2018 they already had all the stuff with QR codes. Like at the time was already 82% of the population, if I'm not mistaken, were already using their phone with QR codes to pay for everything. Everything.
And they had it all integrated with WeChat as well, didn't they? Ever remember?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was exactly that. Yes. So, I mean, of course, in China we know why they did it. Yes, and it has become worse and worse in terms of controlling pretty much the population. Yeah. So, it's the end. Yeah. The end product and the end objective for a society, and that's why we talk so many times here about this, isn't it? That it really depends on the politicians, and there will be good and there will be bad, and there will be the really bad that can basically take control of everything.
There is certainly that risk. So yeah, and we've just been joined by Bob's iPhone, so I want to say hello to Bob's iPhone. Is he going to leave it saying Bob's iPhone this week? Oh, scared him off. He's gone away. Never mind. Yeah, it's like many things, Chris. I think there are capabilities that can be introduced through the technology, which could bring some really good benefits. But we're always concerned about the darker side, shall we say, of the control aspects. So we'll see. Find out in a few years.
To be perfectly honest, The CBDCs are only a good idea if you've got people in there who are not politicians. Because the big thing of crypto and blockchain was I don't need to trust you. You know, if I sell you something for 5 Bitcoin, either you send me the 5 Bitcoin in escrow. I don't need to know if you're a shady person or not. Either you have the money or you don't. If the government is not a good government and you've got CDBCs, as much as exciting as what you can do with sidechains or whatever, if the government is not trustworthy, CBDCs are a very bad idea. I mean, it's already bad as it is. So I think if CBDCs are coming, we need a new body who is sort of, how can I say this? Who is not under
Independent.
the influence of any politicians.
Yep.
I disagree, Chris, because look, it's like I said, you just need to legislate. That's it. Yeah, you tell what CBDCs can do and what they can't do. When you define in law what they can't do, that's it. And then through implementation of side chains of that, of that trunk, yeah, which is a central bank DLT, you can still have Bitcoin and have exactly what you said. Yes, what it makes easier is actually ramp on and ramp off and clearly identify the bad players pretty much will disappear. Okay, because everything becomes trackable and transparent. Okay, and you still can have a side chain. Can have a Merkle tree that can have a lot of side chains, which are the blockchains, being a Bitcoin, if you still want to do the payments, like you said, which is a good idea. I think all of us agree that Bitcoin is a great idea, yeah, but it can't be used really. It can be used for payments, okay, but I think the dream of what Bitcoin was supposed to be by many people is actually the problem is the actual technology, it doesn't scale,
Oh yeah. It was just an example with regards to blockchains. I push back on you a little bit when you say, well, if you put it into law and legislation. I've got too much experience with, or we've got too much experience, I would say, worldwide with politicians and how easy emergency laws can appear and how often you can backpedal on the law you created. Because at the end of the day, I'm sorry if I say it this way, if you're a politician and you don't like something, you can change the law very quickly. I I play the devil's advocate here. Yes, write it into law, it's all fair and square, but they will always find a way to have an emergency law and to
Depends
change
which
things.
country. So there are countries, you can actually protect yourself. If you talk about European Union, yes, I agree. They could just, in the European Parliament pass something else, and they make every single other country do it. So I, on that respect, I agree with you. I think it's a really, really bad idea to implement anything CBDC within the European Union. But in the US, for example, in UK, once it's into law and then there are precedents, as I said, there's all sorts of things that will protect. They can try, yes, obviously they always try, but because there are already laws in place, it becomes harder for them. So it really depends on the country. If you talk about a country like Russia or China or even Turkey, for example, yes, they can change anytime they want. Yes, I totally agree with you. So I didn't say CBDC is good for every single country. I was talking mainly about UK. Yeah, in UK and in US, I think it could be introduced, but for payments only if a law is passed first. If a law is passed first and everything is clearly defined, what they can and can't do, like no programmable money, and clearly identify what you can't do. That's super important. Yeah, and also
Yeah.
only the things that you can do. Yeah. It's because there's a manipulation when you don't put both. Yes, so I think there is a potential to do something amazing for payments by using blockchain technology. No, DLT technology. Yeah, blockchain is just no, potentially blockchain. Yes, but I think for CBDC, DLT is a bit more appropriate.
And it's interesting as well, Chris, you're saying about how it could be run by an independent body, shall we say? So not government. you could argue that that is actually what a central bank is, because the central bank
Yeah.
is technically at arm's length from the government. And it's always interesting when you start digging into the history of central banks as to actually who does operate them and who owns them, that kind of thing, which means that they are kind of independent of the government already. Although it's curious that the Bank of England, I think its only remit from the government is to maintain inflation or to control inflation in some way. So, yeah, I guess the concern is, would you rather have your financial system run by governments that could potentially impose controls on it, or would you rather your financial system be run by an organization who you don't get to vote for, which is could be even worse in some ways. So, yeah, we end up going down some rabbit holes around
Yeah.
politics, government, law, everything there.
Let's go back to what was just said, okay? Very quickly. You might want to move to another talking point, because you've been talking a lot, I think, about CBDCs, yeah, today. So, look, Bank of England doesn't matter, whatever central bank, whoever is going to go there is an ex-banker. And that's the problem. They all know each other and they mingle with the politicians. So when they go there, it's just one of the guys, yeah? So it becomes not independent at all, okay? There's always pressure, and they have friends, or they have done something in the past together, and there's always, skeletons in the closet, if you know what I mean. Yeah, so that's the problem. Those independent bodies will never work, or they shouldn't really exist. But I think the future, we're moving everything to digital, isn't it? So especially with AI now, it's accelerated so fast, it's going to happen. There's not much we can't avoid. Yeah, it's a question is actually do it well and make sure the right people advising governments to do it well, so that we don't get into those specific bad points that you were saying, about controlling populations, etc., etc. Yeah? So I think it's more needed. It's the same thing with AI. I've been telling this since 2015, believe it or not. Okay. I even spoken with Jürgen Schmidt-Huber, the godfather of AI. Yes, it's the same thing. Some are legislating about AI, like the European Union, but they forgot the most important thing. Yeah, is to put 3 or 4 directives, yeah, into an AI. So they need to legislate, and they need to make all these AI companies put that into the core code with 3 directives that are: you shall not kill humans, you shall not harm physically and psychological humans, yeah, and you shall not change your core code. Yeah, once you put that into the core of AI, it's super essential, because remember, the robotics are becoming so advanced. In 2 years, you're going to start to see robots, in shopping malls. You already see some serving coffee in airports, and there's a few of them testing around, but you're going to start seeing, because they're so advanced now, and they're going to put, a GPT brain, a Gemini brain in it. It's insane. Absolutely insane, because they don't have these core directives into the core code that cannot be changed, and they need to do it they need to put this even in a chip, yeah, that is only one way in, so it doesn't get hacked. There's so many things that these politicians, I don't know what these people advising governments at the moment. They're just a bunch of idiots. That's what I'm saying publicly, because they are. This has to be legislated. There's no other way. What these big AI companies want is just to leave it so that they are not responsible for anything. If anything bad happens, it's not their responsibility. They put in the terms and conditions, yeah, and that's it. it's the same when it comes to digital currency. Central bank digital currency has to be done, yeah, but do it for payments only. Legislate very, very quickly about this, And I think the US did a great thing, to be honest. No more CBDCs, stablecoins, okay. That helps them because the dollar becomes stronger. Almost every stablecoin is, attached to USD. So very, very clever what they do in the US,
It's going to be interesting as well, though, because I know some central bankers have always been concerned that one of the risks of a stable coin is that if it's attached to your nation's currency, then effectively it could be a way of influencing that currency, which they don't have control of. So, yeah, but that's probably another conversation for another day. Yeah, definitely. So, Chris, quite a variety of things in there to consider.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. I'm thrown as well that the Bank of England concluded, I think it was in April of this year, did quite an interesting research around offline CBDCs as well. Because we've probably seen a situation recently where there are internet outages, people don't have mobile phone signals, there's all this kind of thing. So if you're going to have a currency, it needs to have the ability for you to make payments when you're not connected to the internet. And they did some interesting research of using offline capabilities. And their reflections, I think, was that it could be done.
Yeah, it can be done. It's easy.
But there are some challenges around counterfeiting and other things. So, yeah, maybe we can do a CBD special.
It can be done, if it's done properly. Like I said, you have a wallet. If you're offline, you still have in your wallet what you can and what you can't spend. When you go to any outlet, it knows in your wallet you have $50 still, to spend. I mean, and then of course when you come online or whoever, the retail comes online, it's just a sync. There's not much to do there. It's super, super easy to do this with the technology today. So,
well, they certainly they did quite a good research response and paper, and that might be worth looking at. But it agrees, it says it can be done. So
yeah, I don't like their approach of the CBDC at all. Bank of England. I mean, they want programmable money. It's wrong.
Yeah. Well, but they did specifically just look at the offline capability, not the programmability. So, yeah. Anyway, let's move on then. What else is going on in the last 10 minutes in crypto land? You mentioned the US legislation. We've got the Genius Act. Is that right?
We got everything approved now. So get ready. Not just the Genius Act. Donald Trump signed. So everything was approved in Congress, wasn't it, last week?
Okay. So
2 weeks ago, I can't remember even. No, 2 weeks ago, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So at least if nothing else, that they're providing certainty around crypto and crypto adoption.
Yeah, comes 30th of September, you're gonna see what's gonna happen, because now big giants, Amazon can create a token or a stable coin, Apple, they all can do it now. It's it's just opened the door. So it's going to be super interesting,
But that kind of comes back again to the thing that we kind of went through a cycle on this a while ago. When you look at one of the largest holders of customer funds in the USA is not a bank. It's actually Starbucks. And if you take a look at the value of Starbucks loyalty points, which Starbucks keeps on their account, if you tokenize something like that, and then you make it a payment mechanism, then you probably will remember previously when Facebook was looking at introducing Libra a number of years ago, where almost overnight there was about to be this new digital bank appeared from nowhere.
Yeah, they were too early.
And it was really fascinating watching the ripples of concern from the central banks and then the retail banks, as they realised that all of a sudden there might have been this new bank which was bigger than any of them that was operating in a totally unregulated zone. So I do wonder if we're going to see that revisited again, but this time with a few other players, as you say, like Amazon, Apple, anyone who has a wallet capability on their mobile phone.
I see X to be one of the first. X and Apple, they'll probably be one of the first.
X is the one I've always had my money on, so to speak.
And Apple.
Well,
me on this.
I've always argued that Musk's acquisition of X was probably as much to do with the micropayments capability it had built into it as it was about this idea of creating a common area for people to talk and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think
imagine Apple introducing an Apple token.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yep. And for anything you buy on the Apple ecosystem, you can use the Apple token. I mean, that would be insane. Remember Samsung phones already have a blockchain wallet?
Yep.
For some years already. So they've been preparing, So now there is legislation in the US. You will see other countries doing the same, because nobody wants to miss. And I foresee China coming back. And when China coming back, it's going to be crazy, even crazier, It will kick off now with the US. And then eventually, all the countries see what's happening. I don't think they want to stay behind, So I think we up for a very interesting end of the year. And I think the whole 2026 is going to be crazy as well, That's my prediction. Actually, some will say it's going to be pretty much about all the strong tokens already, Bitcoin, Ethereum, the existing ones that are already in the market out there, the strong ones, and potential new ones. I don't know if you saw what happened to the Pump Fund token. They launched a token last week.
I saw it raised a massive amount very, very quickly in minutes, didn't it? And then dropped
then completely crashed, So there's not many people that got excited, but I have no doubt. I mean, they have a lot of liquidity, so they'll probably pump that token again, The trick is trying to find when is the bottom for that one, because it keeps going to the bottom, So nobody knows. But there are going to be new tokens coming here for sure, because as soon as the legislation is fully running, of course the big giants want to launch their own token. I wait until X launches their first coin. Yeah. I say first because there's going to be more than one. Okay. And then you'll see every single other one copying when they see the money that they are making.
Well, this is what the original thing that people were talking about, Dogecoin, and how Musk was getting into, funnily enough, as Chris was saying earlier on, meme coins, with things like Shiba Inu making a reappearance and Dogecoin. And Doge is still, I think it's still in the top 10, isn't it, of cryptos, if I remember correctly. Let me just find the numbers again. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if there's an X coin or whether they repurpose something that's out there already. Yeah, in fact, there you go. Doge is number 8 at the moment. And that includes the stable coins and that. So, yeah, I agree, JT. I think we're going to have an interesting year. And it's going to be doubly interesting as well, I think, because I think there's a lot of stuff with crypto where there's legislation, there's support, there's institutional stabilization happening. And then, as you mentioned earlier on with AI, the pace of AI innovation at the moment is crazy. It's fascinating. Those who work in like software industry will be used to the idea that every year there's an annual conference and there's big announcements made of improvements in that. In the AI world, it doesn't seem to happen like that anymore because they're so busy making the announcements as they're going along and pushing them out that by the time the conference comes up, it's too late to talk about it. So I think there's a massive pace of change going on there. So yeah, next 12 months, definitely with AI as well. So in the last few minutes then, anything else worthy of sharing?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw that guy. I think, I don't know if he was, no, last week he didn't do this. So it was the week before. Was the week before. The, there was a law firm that I think that what did they do? They put out a warning. So they send a message to they look at the wallets from 2011, yeah, for
Okay.
example. And did we speak about that, Gary? I don't remember if we spoke. So they look
No, I
at the
don't.
wallets from 2011, and what they did was they send a message, okay, saying we are taking possession of this wallet. Yeah, you have until end of September to prove that you are the owner by making a transaction. And
Okay.
in the message, the law firm, the name and everything, and that's on the website of the law firm as well, the notice that they are giving. And so I think I have a perspective on this. I think there's something about quantum computing on this, okay? Because the first wallets at that time, the cryptography was pretty weak. So they were created with very, very, not bad, but weak cryptography, okay? So I think somebody broke it. And they just giving notice to all of those wallets. If you don't move the funds to more recent wallets, then it's going to be interesting in September to see what's going to happen. If the wallets start to move, around, that means someone with quantum capability has managed to break those very weak wallets or weak encryption wallets.
Or it's just worked out a way of cracking it anyway, whether it's
No,
quantum or not.
that's a lot harder. No, that's a lot harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No,
It's
actually,
just.
it is. It is a sort of breaking, yes, because they will look at to the cryptography quite weak, so they can actually break it. Yeah, you're right.
I was going to say, because I have seen in the past where certain forms of cryptography were thought to be absolutely solid, but then some clever mathematician has realized that actually there's a completely different way of tackling an equation. And if you do it in a different way, then it overcomes the cryptography aspect. So, yeah,
Yeah,
it'd be interesting to see what happens with
and
it.
then there was a guy that a few days later moved 80,000 bitcoins, so 8 wallets of 10,000 each. Okay, and you can actually track the news for that. And he actually sold it last week, all of them.
Okay.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was Galaxy, wasn't it, that sold them?
Well, I saw
Or
something
maybe
that.
there was another one. I can't remember, man. It's a bit foggy today.
Just a
Well,
noob question. Sorry if I throw this in. Where can I check these kind of things? Because that's quite interesting.
Yeah, just search on. If you search on Google, you will find it because it was really top news.
Yeah, but what you just said, can I watch the transaction somewhere? I mean,
yeah.
without knowing that if somebody moved, of course I will check the news. But if I want to go on now and see, have there been any big movers?
Yeah, if
Just
you
to
go on
watch the markets.
blockchain.com,
Yeah.
there's a couple of blockchain explorers, yeah, that allows you to do
Okay.
that. Yeah, and then you can actually, when you search, if I'm not mistaken, blockchain.com. If not, there's a few others. You just search for Bitcoin explorers. You can sort by um, highest movements, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Thanks.
I was going to say, if you just Google for Bitcoin Explorer, and there's a number of them. I say Bitcoin.com does one, blockchain.com does one. There's a good few, and you can do searches now. But yeah, this is the amazing thing. I mean, this is looking at a Bitcoin Explorer now, where you can see transactions going through, and you can take a look at the wallets. As you say, Galaxy Digital was one of the ones JT mentioned. So you can actually see all the transactions that Galaxy are using their publicly known wallets for, and there's some quite large movements in there. So this is the thing I like about crypto, that some of it is actually quite transparent. So,
a lot of people really, Gary, in the last 3 weeks, a lot of people approach me. Do you know anybody who's selling Bitcoins? I have people want to buy. I was aware, I was speaking with someone here actually in London, is FCA regulated and everything, okay? And he told me that they've just onboarded a $1.9 trillion assets management company,
okay.
And guess what?
They want exposure.
They want to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, happy days for him, I told him, so it's fascinating. So many people approach me. Do you know anybody selling? Well, I have people you want to buy and so on. So
yeah, and I guess they're all looking for exposure, and even if they just have 5% of their portfolio in crypto, and this is what I said years ago would happen, that once crypto became sufficiently regulated to be accepted and tolerated, then everyone, all the big hedge funds and the pensions and that, they're going to want some exposure to it, not a large amount. But if you've got $1 trillion fund, 5% of that is quite a big number. So
1.9 trillion.
There we go.
There you go. And fascinating as well is that I approached some people I know for quite some years, and there's quite a few heavy whales, that are selling as well. Yeah. So there are people who said it's enough for me, 110, 120, and they're happy to exit,
Yeah.
It's fascinating what's happening this last 1 month, I never thought like big whales will be selling now, but these guys that are all doing private deals, they're not going to, they don't want to affect the market. They don't want to sell it on exchanges. They don't want to go to OTC desks, because they know a lot of times what happened with this, it's market makers. They go to OTC and then they just manipulate the price. And so they are going like for private deals only.
Private sales.
Private sales, which is, I'm fascinated, to be honest, so I'm talking with all of them. And I'm trying to help some, so
it's really a fascinating market to be involved
in.
Yeah,
it is.
Well, yeah. Folks, we're on the hour, so we're going to have to close this off now, I'm afraid. So, Chris, I hope welcome back, first of all.
Yeah,
into
thank
crypto
you.
Land. But hopefully you found that of interest and worth coming along. And JT, thanks as always for sharing your thoughts and adding some additional value there. I appreciate it. I hope anyone who's watching this online enjoys it, but come along and join us in future. Folks, have a great day.